Hey there, happy Monday. Thank you so much for joining me tonight, everyone. My name is Alyssa Thomas from Penguin and Fish, where we make cute embroidery kits for the beginning crafter. And I'm here every weeknight at 8:30 p.m. Central Time, and it's a time that we can relax and craft together. And I work on projects from beginning to end, so you can be part of the whole process along the way. And tonight is great because we are starting our new embroidery of the month. I love when we start these. This is March's embroidery of the month. It is called Herb Bouquet, and it's got some parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme on there. And we are going to start that bundle tonight, that embroidery. So this is available now as a digital pattern or as a bundle, and we also have it now as a pre-printed fabric piece as well if you just want the fabric with the pattern on it already. So let's get going. And I know this time might be a little goofy. I forgot that it was daylight saving time on Sunday, so I didn't talk about it last week like I should have. So hopefully you guys are finding me if you did not change your clocks, which I know not everyone does that, so not all the viewers here have to deal with that. So we are here, what would it be, an hour later than normal? Because we jumped ahead. Wait, no, we sprung forward. Oh no, so we're probably an hour earlier than you guys are thinking if you don't change time. So sorry about the confusion. I didn't talk about it last week and I should have. I forgot. So anyway, we are starting now, and this will be the new time until our time switches again. So all right, guys, let's get going. Okay, so here we are. Oh, it's in Derby. It's 1 a.m., 1:30 a.m. Oh my gosh. Yes, Jenny. It's insomnia time for you for sure. All right, so here is our pattern that we are starting. So Jenna stitched this one up, and we are going to start it tonight. So I have the pattern. It's pre-printed, so in the bundle, or if you just buy the fabric piece, it'll be pre-printed on there. So that's going to make it super duper easy for us to just get started. I have the digital pattern. Regardless what format you buy, whether you get the PDF, just the fabric, or the whole bundle that comes with the floss, you'll get the PDF pattern, and that's what I'm using for the design, so I can see like what stitches to use where, what colors to use where. It's great because you can zoom in and just double check the colors and everything. So I will have this open near me as I work. So I have my needle. I have a Marie's little needle minder. Oh, Marie is on tonight. So this is from Marie. So a needle minder just is a magnet that you can put on your piece. This is an awfully cute magnet. It's two magnets, really, this one. And when we're not using our needle, I put it on there. I'm trying to form a habit of putting it on there, because usually I just set it on the table and then it disappears, which that ain't good. So I have that, and I also have an embroidery hoop here. You can use really whatever size you want, but these 8-inch hoops really fit these designs nice without having to keep on moving them around and stuff. So all right, that's my setup right here. And I also wanted to thank everyone who purchased from the studio sale that's still going on this week, and we still actually have some of our cones of floss yet. I think most of the small cones of floss are gone, but we have, this is just, the studio sale is all just kind of stuff we just had sitting in the studio. I'm not using these floss cones anymore because now I've switched to the skeins of floss. So I have a bunch of used floss cones in various amounts. So this is like a medium used one, and this is like we probably just opened this and didn't use it at all. So we do have several different versions of that, and it's way cheaper than buying a full cone. So that's going on in the studio sale. We also have like some seconds, and what that means is just things that didn't turn out quite perfect, but are just fine for using still. So an example of that is we got a whole pile of our our Northern Cardinal, which is this really nice red. We got a whole pile of this floss, but it all came with wrong labels on it, right? So we have these available for like way cheaper, and some kits and some other fun stuff. So I encourage you to check that out. I have a link below. And then just so you know, next week we will be sewing up our little bunny pattern. This is a pattern that we made several years ago, but I haven't made it in a long time, and we haven't sewn a toy in a while. So this has the gusseted head to give the head shape and everything. It's got like kind of funny offset legs, which are kind of cute. So that is our bunny pattern. And the pattern, just to show you guys, it comes with, I know we'll get to stitching here in a sec here, but it comes with the whole entire, lots of images, and then it has the whole fold out sheet, so you don't have to print it yourself, and you don't have to put pieces together. They're all the exact size you need here, and you don't have to like assemble them at all. They're all full. So that comes with the printed pattern. So be sure to check that out in the sewing section of our shop. And we actually have it as a PDF and as this printed booklet. But I recommend the booklet because of that sheet. Then you don't have to deal with printing. Anyway, just wanted to share that because he will be next week. So cute. All right. So now let's get going with the embroidery. I'm going to scooch us down so you can see right in there. Hopefully don't make you seasick here. Okay, so just so you know, I still do have this right near me so I can check on the design. But all right, let's get started here. Whoa, okay. I'm going to get a little further away so I don't whack you again. Okay. I'm going to open my hoop up. And here we go. Oh yeah, Sylvia, it is super, super duper snowing here too. We had the most beautiful Saturday. It was like 60 some degrees. It was freaking gorgeous. And then today we got like 3+ inches of snow. It just started snowing and did not stop. And it's heavy, sticky snow. And oh my gosh, it might still be snowing. It's just, I could not believe the accumulation that happened. So, I was really hoping to like, just get spring to come by stitching this design tonight. But man, I don't know. I hope I wake up tomorrow and all this snow is melted. So we'll see. But boo. Okay, so I got this in the hoop now. I just kind of, I'm kind of stretching it. I'm not really stretching it, but I'm just making sure it's taut in the hoop. Because that's the way I like it. If you're doing the sewing method of stitching where you go in and out in the same motion, you might want it a little looser, but I'm more of a stabber, so we'll just keep it like so. All right, and I don't know, how do we want to do this? I was thinking maybe just go left to right. So to determine, there's like any amount of ways that you could determine where to start stitching. Some things that I think about is what's most furthest back. So for example, like this stem is behind this sage leaf here. So I would like to ideally stitch this stem before the sage leaf, because then when my stitch stops right there and I stitch the sage leaf, it will go over the ends of those stitches and it will appear like it's more in front of that stem. So that's something that I consider. And then sometimes it's just, what do I want to start stitching? So there's no real rhyme or reason for that. And I also like stitching with stitches that I can weave in the backs really easily, so I do like starting with some back stitches because then you can just weave in the ends versus a lot of these like lazy daisy stitches they're kind of loopy, they don't have a lot to stitch in, so I do kind of like making sure I have some sort of back stitch to weave into, but ultimately it's just whatever you want to do. I think I'm going to start on this side. We'll kind of begin with, I don't know, should we begin with the stems or should we begin with the leaves? Kind of leaning towards the stems. I don't know. I'm making too much of a decision here. So I'm going to put the needle minder on, so a magnet on the front and the back. This will just hang out here on the side. It's just so I know where the needle is at all times. I can just kind of toss it at it. Okay, so I'm looking at the instructions. The stem is stitched with a back stitch. Feel free to use whatever stitch you want. You could use a stem stitch, a split stitch. Those would look great. And it's stitched with the lime peel. Again, use whatever colors you like. Okay, and I'm going to be using 3 strands of floss for this. If you want a more kind of delicate look, like thinner lines, I should say, then you can try 2 strands. That'd be great. Marie says it's been snowing here in Wisconsin for a few hours now. Yeah, I'm thinking you got it probably a couple hours after us, although I think it's moving from east to west, which I thought was a little bizarre. So maybe you've been having it earlier than us, but yeah, it started at like, I don't know, noonish, and it's just never stopped. All right, so I'm going to pull my 3 strands out of here. So 1, I'm taking 1 strand at a time, like isolating it, and then letting the rest bunch up behind me. That's 2, and then I'm just running my hand through it to kind of like loosen it again, relax it again. And 3. I still think this is the fastest way of separating the threads and getting it the least knotted up. All right, so I'm going to set that aside. That'll be ready for later. Let's start with our away knot. I've been using 2 strands of floss for a while, so we've been doing that cool loop method, but with 3 strands, we can't as easily do that. So I'm going to use the away knot method. So I'm going to take this end. I like stitching where I don't have any knots on the back. I just weave in the ends. It makes it really nice and clean, and your thread doesn't catch on any of the knots, which is the huge big benefit of it. And it still stays, like even after washing and all that. So how you do that, or my favorite way to do, I'm going to clip this end just so it's nice and clean. The way I like doing no knot stitching on the back is by actually starting with a knot, and it's called an away knot. It's actually a throwaway knot. That's not what it's called, like a disposable knot. It's actually called a certain kind of knot. So anyway, I'm going to go from the front first with that knot, but since I'm starting here, I'm going to go about like 4 inches away. So you're going to be wasting a little thread right at the beginning here, but you'll only really have to do this once. So I'm going to start this line right here, and we'll do the stem of this parsley, and we're actually going to go right through all these lines here. This is like our little purple twine that we'll do at the end. I'm just going to do that in one big stitch over all of these other stitches. So for a back stitch, I'm going to start about a stitch length away. I do about an 1/8 inch stitches, a stitch length away from the beginning, and then we're going to go backwards towards the beginning and make our first stitch. There we are. And then I'm going to come up a stitch length away from our starting point and go in the exact same hole as that first stitch. And those are our first 2 back stitches, and I'm just going to continue up the row. And that is all. Oh, a waist knot. That's what I'm trying to think of. So the away knot here, because it's away from where we're starting, it's a version of a waist knot. And a waist knot it's kind of like basting. It's a temporary knot. And all we're really doing, the whole point of it, is that we're reserving this length of thread for later. We are just reserving it, and then later we will weave in that end. That's all we're doing here. Instead of having a knot at the beginning, because that knot, like anytime I make a stitch, you know, my thread's gonna get caught on it, and I'm gonna have a whole pile of loops at the end. All right, I missed some of your Facebook comments. Sorry about that. Oh, Colleen says, sorry to be late. Time change is killing our meal times. Yes, it's been totally throwing me, that's for sure, as it always does. But yeah, I looked up and it was like 6 p.m. already. I'm like, oh my gosh, my live is gonna be soon. In my head it was like 4. Well, in my head it was like 5, I suppose. But man, I don't know. So, sorry for everyone that I threw for a loop a little bit today with the time change. Alrighty. So I'm just going to keep scooching through. At some point I'm going to have to decide which way I'm going with the stem, because it splits here. I think I might go up this way and then just jump over here and come back down. I like to look ahead a little bit and map out my next spots. So that's kind of what I was doing there. I think I'll have enough thread for all that for sure. Then I might start a new piece of thread once I get up here. Or maybe I'll just do this bottom half, get that other piece of thread and do the leaves and then work my way up. That's a way to do it too. Usually I kind of stick to a color, but every once in a while it's nice to just get a whole section done, regardless of color. Just kind of how you feel that night. If you feel like, man, I'm gonna crank out all this lime peel color, then do it. But if you're like, ugh, I'm gonna finish all the parsley tonight, then that's another way to think about it. All right, so I'm just gonna jump up to this next spot. Ooh, Lynn says I used 2 strands and did a whipped backstitch instead of the regular backstitch. Oh, I bet you that just looks so pretty. So I can show you guys what a whipped backstitch is. I'll show you what a whipped backstitch is with this little backstitch section that I'm doing here. I'll probably take it out right away, but I'm only gonna do like 4 stitches. But it's really pretty. So one of these days, we're gonna have to dig into like a whole pile of the fun varieties of backstitches, and just like there's so many cute little things that you can do with all these stitches. There's the basic, like what we're doing now, and then you can get more and more decorative. So a whipped backstitch, first you do a row of backstitches, like so, and then, let's see, I haven't done one in a while, but I'm going to come back up at the end, and then I'm going to go from right to left underneath the stitch, and then I'm going to keep going right to left underneath the next stitch, right to left underneath the next stitch, and right to left underneath the next stitch, and then you basically go back in that hole. But if you can see, it almost looks like a cord. And actually, if you use a different color for the whipped part of it, it looks like kitchen twine, like that really pretty, like 2-color kitchen twine. But it just gives it a totally different look. So let's just kind of compare the look. So this is more of like a solid line. It actually looks really a lot like a stem, doesn't it? Just like raised like that a little bit, versus our plain backstitch that just is a couple, just like a beady sort of, I always think it's like a row of pearls almost. You can see each little bead of the stitch versus this just looks like one solid piece of twine, right? That is awfully pretty. Okay, I really, really love this look a ton. I'm gonna take it out just because I just want this to be, we're just gonna do this one, the standard, but man, the whole thing with the whip backstitch, that sounds awesome. That sounds like so cute, and I love that idea. I'll have to do a pattern one of these days where we explore that stuff a little bit more, because that would be really fun to do. You can do a double whipped backstitch. You can go back and forth like a ladder instead of whipping around. I'm just trying to get my thread back here. There we go. But ooh, that looked very cute. Alyssa says adds texture, so pretty. Yeah, it was really fun. Gosh, I really kind of want to do it now, but I'm gonna stick to this for now. But man, I'm gonna have to think about doing that for one of our upcoming patterns. Oh, it'd be fun to just do, like, what do you guys think about this? Like, if we did something like maybe the whole entire pattern for one of these embroideries is all backstitch, but different varieties of backstitch. So we could do the whipped backstitch, just this plain backstitch. That kind of woven backstitch, a backstitch fill. We could just play with all things backstitch, and then we could do the same for like knots, and the same for, other stitches too. Have a lot of varieties that just give it a different look. And I think that's what's so neat about embroidery, is that there's a zillion ways to do it, and they all just have different looks and feels, and it's just fun. I like it. Fun, fun, fun. Lots of room for experimenting and creativity, and it's all going to look good no matter what. Oh, that's interesting. So Lynn says, I cannot do nice even back stitches like you do, so it helps my work look a little nicer. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, it does kind of blend all the stitches together. That's true, so that's kind of neat. And sometimes my stitches are even, sometimes not so much. And I kind of vary my stitch length for what I'm stitching to. Like these lines are pretty straight, so sometimes sometimes my stitches end up being a lot bigger. But like around like some tight curves, like what we'll do next, my stitches will be getting a lot less big. They'll get smaller just so I can get more of that curved feel. Because the more little stitches you put in, the more it's gonna, they're straight stitches, so the more you put in next to each other that are little, it's gonna appear as a curve a little bit better. All right. I got a couple more stitches here. I do have more thread on my needle here, but not enough to like jump up here and continue this next bit. So I'm gonna just call this piece of thread done for now. Maybe if I don't have enough up here, I can do a few little ones, but I don't know. I think we'll start with a different thread, and I'll just have extra. It'll end up in a pom-pom once I turn all my old floss into pom-poms again. All right, so there's our first two little bits of our parsley stem. I'm going to flip it around now and weave in the end. So this is what this is reserved for, our away knot. We're reserving it to do this. So I'm going to just kind of grab as many threads as I can over like, I don't know, 3/4 of an inch or so. And then I'm going to go backwards and get as many threads as I can. We're trying to make this as secure as possible, so the more twists and turns it takes, the more secure it's going to be. And then I always go 3 times, because the third is what locks it in place. You won't really be able to pull it out after that. All right, so plop my needle on the needle minder there. Ugh, can't pick up, there. Can't pick up my scissors. And then the nice thing with weaving in the ends too, you can clip it right, pretty much against the against the back of the thread, so I have no knots, no nothing. So, all right, I'm gonna address our away knot now. I could actually leave this and stitch a whole lot more, but I'm gonna address it now. I'm going to just snip the knot off. Oops, didn't get all the threads there. So there's my knot, that's garbage. And then I'm gonna flip it around, and we have now released that little bit of thread. I'm gonna thread it through the needle, and then I'm gonna weave in these ends. And this is how you can weave in the ends but not have like that knot at the beginning. So the away knot, a version of a waist knot. There are other waist knots, but the away knot is my favorite. All right, I should have maybe got a little bit extra thread, but okay, so now I haven't gone the third way yet, and I don't have that much more thread, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually go with the eye of the needle first. So that's a little trick my mom taught me if you don't have enough thread. And there we go. Snip that, and we're done with that. Okay, so next up, I think we're going to just start these leaves. I'm going to kind of work my way up here, I think. And I might actually, I'm kind of considering doing this part and then doing like the first sage leaf, because then when I start this stem, I can weave into the backs of the stitches of the sage leaf to start. I might do that. That seems kind of weird, but that's kind of how I'm feeling right now. But let's do some of these first parsley leaves first. So that's using fresh basil, which is funny because I don't actually have basil in here. But there we go. So same thing, I'm going to use 3 strands. Again, you can use less or more, depending on what stitches you want to use. Basically what you want the final look to be. Like if you want a thicker, fatter line, then one of the ways to get that is through more threads. If you want a thinner, more delicate line, you can do less threads. Or if you want a super thick line, you could just change the stitch. So like a stem stitch, through that process of the stitch, you're kind of putting 2 threads next to each other, just because you're kind of overlapping things a little bit. So your stitch, your ultimate line is going to look double wide compared to like our back stitch. So that's another way to get a thicker look, is just using a different stitch. All right, let's grab the 3 ends, put them together. All these greens together are so fun. So the sage, we didn't have like a real sagey green, but I have this winter morning color that I think gets that little sage vibe, just that little kind of misty blue that sort of sage green has. All sorts of greens. This is, I think, my favorite color palette that we've used so far. I really do like this a lot. All the greens. I feel like I was tying that into a knot, but I think we're good. So this time I am not going to do the away knot. You can, but instead this time I'm going to just weave into the backs of stitches that already exist there. All right, and another thing, I'm doing the pinch method of threading my needle. I'm hoping to have some needle threaders in the shop soon, but because I know this isn't for everyone, but I like getting my thread kind of short in my finger there, and so I can like pinch it and not see it, and then I can slowly unpinch it, and you just see like the little beginning tip of it. So I look at it like straight on, and I gradually unpinch, and the moment I can see, you know, the little bit of thread popping through, I put the eye of the needle on top of it. And if it doesn't go in right away, I pinch it tighter again so I can see it even less. Kind of rub my needle over the top of that, and it kind of pushes the thread through. And once I got a little bit in there, then I just grab it and pull the rest through. So that's kind of the pinch method there. So, I have an update. I'm just reading some of these comments. I have an update on my sewing machine. Right up there I need to start. So I'm going to just weave in the end here. But I wanted to do some free motion quilting on Friday and found out there was a short in my sewing machine cord. And I was just thinking, I'm going to have to find a new sewing machine repair place, because there's actually another problem with it, with the feed dogs. So I'm like, fine, I'll bring it in and they'll just do everything. But I don't really have a good place right now, and so I just ended up going to sewing parts online, which I use a lot, especially for my vintage machines, and I found a cord there. So I purchased a new cord, so I'll have to figure out how to attach that cord to the foot, but it didn't seem all that hard. I got the cord, so as soon as that comes, I could at least fix the short, I'm hoping. And then we can do the free motion quilting. So I'm not going to have to wait ages and ages. I just got to wait like a couple days for the new cord to come. So I'm very excited about that. And that was like a $22 fix. With shipping, it was like $22 versus, beginning at $90 if I brought it in somewhere. So I'm stoked about that. I still have to fix the other problem, but that won't stop me from being able to free motion quilt anymore. So I'm pretty happy about that. Oh, Sylvia says, thank you. I've mastered the knicker knot. Yay! So the knicker knot is that how we began the rows of our English paper piecing project that we did last week. Yeah, so I'm super excited about that. I think it'll be just an easy fix. So it was the size of my plug. So there's 3 prongs. 2 of them are close together and one's a little further apart for my 70s Ken Morris sewing machine. So that's what this one looked like. That's step number 1. And it has the part that plugs into the sewing machine, then it has the part that goes to the outlet, and then the cord that goes to the foot. And at the end or the foot pedal, at the end of that one, there's like 2 little prongs, and I'm guessing I just unscrew the foot pedal and clip on those prongs somehow, and I think that will be easy peasy. How can it be more difficult than that? That's gotta be it. So that was a win. Very excited. And the other issue, getting the feed dogs to work again, I'm gonna have to do some more research that I haven't really found out there, except for in one Facebook group for vintage Kenmore sewing machines. There's a Facebook group for everything, but the face group I'm in for vintage Kenmores, someone had a video of it doing the same problem, and someone in the comments had a fix for it, so I saved that video, but that was like a year ago. So I wonder if I'll be able to find that saved video and see if maybe that's my same problem and if that fix worked. We'll see. Otherwise, maybe I'll just shoot a video myself and post it in that group, and maybe someone can help me. It's probably a faster idea. I don't know, we'll see. So I'm making my stitches way smaller than I usually do, really, because this is a really tight curve. So you can see I'm getting, these are itty bitty, especially if you compare them to these stitches that are just straight. I tend to do that versus keeping all my stitches the exact same length. I tighten them up around curves, because the more little straight lines we go, we're changing the angle at every single time we make a stitch. And the more teeny tiny angle shifts, the more it's going to look like a curve. Because really it's not a curve, right? It's a bunch of straight lines, a bunch of straight stitches. But if you have a lot of them and they're all just changing slightly, then it ends up looking like a curve. So I can tell it's getting later in the evening, because I tend to get more finicky and more perfectionism-y, I suppose, on things like my curves. So I don't always do this many. This is kind of like an absurd amount of tiny little stitches, but it does look nice. Usually I do maybe 3 around a curve. Yeah, this electrical is scary. I don't do it. Kalina's saying, yeah, this particular thing, I don't think there's much to it. Like I really think it's gonna be super duper easy. So I'm excited. And if it looks scary, then you know, we'll do something else. At total worst, John's cousin is an electrician, and he's coming over to put some more outlets in at the house. So I'll have him take a look at it if it seems confusing. But I think it just seems easy. Famous last words, I suppose. Alright, 2 more little stitches. So this, obviously, going around all these curves, there's a lot more surface area than just a nice straight line. So these little guys are going to take more floss and take more time. Sometimes instead of doing a back stitch, when I have to come up next to stitches like this, I'll do a forward stitch instead. So I'll come up in that last hole, and then I'll go forward, because then I can kind of dig it underneath that stitch. Alright, let's do this side. I'm trying to make the stem look like it's in front, so I'm kind of going behind the stem with my needle when I stitch this. Man, you guys, I spent the whole weekend cleaning our basement. So I guess I'm officially in spring cleaning mode. But oh man, was that a job. But I think we did a pretty good job. The goal was to just get everything. It was just a huge mess. So the whole idea was I bought a ton of plastic bins, and the goal was put everything in a bin, and we will go through it bin by bin later and decide, is it to donate or sell or keep or toss. So later we will go through that, but first just get it all in a bin, because if we would spend any time on making those decisions, we wouldn't have gotten anywhere, and we had a whole basement to do. So and we had moved. I was using the spare bedroom as like an office. So, and this was like last year. And then we turned it back to a spare bedroom. And so all that stuff, all my office stuff, went into the basement too. So it was all the basement stuff, all my old office stuff. Ugh, just a pile of things. But we got it all binned. It looks way cleaner, I suppose, and it's ready to just start going through each bin and reducing our stuff. I just want to get rid of stuff and get all clean and organized again. Felt good to go through that. I mean, big job, but nice spring cleaning feeling. Whew, I'm just thinking through this right now. There is kind of a lot of leaves on here, a lot of surface area all in here, so I am not sure if we are going to finish this whole thing this week. I'm just trying to kind of estimate time a little bit. I think we'll get this whole bottom parsley area done today, maybe a hair more. Maybe we'll switch, maybe for the sage, I'll switch to the sewing method. So right now I'm using the stabbing method of embroidery, where I go straight down with the needle. The going straight down allows you to be really precise on where the needle is going, which I love. And this is the way I learned, so it just feels more natural. But you bring the needle all the way through, and then you come up. Again, you can be precise because you can kind of drag the needle to just, you can see the tip of the needle, and then you can just kind of drag it just to the exact right place and come straight up. pull through, and just straight down again. This is the stabbing method. I think this might be maybe a more common method. I don't know. Not quite sure about that. So the other thing I'm doing, I'm using my left hand a lot, and what I'm doing is I'm pulling, after I've done a stitch and the needle's on the back, I'm kind of pulling the thread away with my hand. I'm doing this for almost every stitch. It's just kind of natural now. I'm moving the thread away from where my next stitch is going to be. So I pulled it through, moving it away, and then I'm going to come up and do the stitch. Let's do one. Okay, so I'm going to start pulling that, but on the back, since I've pulled the thread away, there's less of a chance for it to loop up upon itself and make those horrible knots that always happen with embroidery. So like there, see, I'm holding it out of the way, and then when it gets taut, then I'll let go of it. Whereas if I would just, not do anything, like just hold the hoop, which I think is probably typical, when I come back up, what happens is this thread can get all wrapped around everything else and get pulled and caught on things, and you might end up with like a twisty little knot. Whereas having my hand there, you kind of avoid that. So again, I pull through, and as I'm pulling it through, I move the thread out of the way, and we'll just do one big stitch here, make my next stitch, and then I let go of it. That's sort of my standard practice. So I'm always kind of grabbing that thread on the back. I think we'll have enough floss for this last little leaf, but it's going to be close. Definitely using the floss up on here, on these little green leaves. So thanks again, everyone, for joining tonight. I always like when we start up our new Embroidery of the Month, which is always the third full week. So the third full week of the month is when we start stitching the Embroidery of the Month. We have April's all ready to go, and I'm excited for that one too. I'm always excited for the next one. This one's a favorite, though. It's kind of funny, I'm just looking at this now. Like, this half of it is kind of all backstitch, and this half of it is, like, all single chain stitches, or, like, lazy-daisy or detached chain stitches. So this is probably a good side to warm up on, maybe. Gosh, there's a zillion of them over here. But I think that Thyme, with all these little baby detached chain stitches, looks so cute. Oh, so also we announced the winner of our quarterly giveaway for our big pack of the entire alphabet of embroidery fanners, the alphabet animals. And we actually have 3 winners. We decided to give away 2 more. So check over in the Penguin and Fish Facebook group to see if you won, and then email or direct message us. And we will send those to you. And if we don't get a response in like 72 hours, we will, or 48 hours, we'll pick another person. So really excited about that giveaway. And our studio sale is going on now. I don't know if you heard that earlier. So we have lots of cones of floss available yet. We have a bunch of hoops and all sorts of fun stuff like a box of fun fabric, just a box of cones and tubes and other fun like little creativity sort of stuff, which is the sort of stuff that I used to totally love as kids. I remember we went to the Boston Children's Museum once. I've probably said this before, but when we were little, we went to the Boston Children's Museum. We'd always go on a road trip in the big van for in the summer. And we went to the Boston Children's Museum, and they had like those giant, like zillion-gallon drums for full of just random things. So like one would be like all computer keys, and one would be all like tongue depressors, and one would be all, I don't know, plastic discs or straws or whatever. And you could just you'd get a box or something. Each kid would get a box, and then you could just fill it up with whatever you wanted from these bins. And we would make stuff out of those things for like years and years. Years and years after that. And I think we still actually have some. My dad said, I think there's still some of that stuff in the garage. But that's kind of what these cones remind me of. And my grandma always used those cones. They're basically the cones, well, not basically, they are the cones that these guys come on. So they're kind of got that angle to them. And my grandma used to make those dolls that they're attached to it on the top, and then they have a stick in there, so you pull the stick down, and then the doll looks like it's hiding in the cone, and you push the stick up, and then there's like, you know, a bear clown or some sort of weird doll. But she used to make those out of them, and I just think they're so fun. So we have those in the shop too. It's a fun little box. But yeah, I'm really excited about the floss though. It's like I said, we switched now to our penguin and fish skeins, so we have a lot of cones of floss left over from when we kind of wound all the little bits of floss. And we are not doing that anymore, so we have a bunch of slightly used or more than slightly used cones of floss. So small, medium, and large versions of the amounts of floss left on it, and those have been going really, really fast. We only have like 1 or 2 of each of them, so people have been grabbing those. Anyway, we're excited about it. We haven't done a studio sale like that before, so we're having fun. It was fun to take all the photos for it and everything. Oh, funny. Pamela says, love, love, love Boston Children Museum. They always had Monopoly houses and charms. Oh, that's freaking great. So I don't remember that. All I remember is the big vats. I remember specifically the computer keys as being the oddball thing for us. I'm sure it changes all the time. But like a giant like vat of like a 50-gallon drum or whatever those are of like computer keys is just so silly. Oh, Christy says, I'm so tempted by the cones of floss, but don't know which colors to get. I already have the black and white cone. The box of fabric scraps is fun too. I know, I'm actually really kind of sad to see all these cones of floss go, because I just want to like display them all and have like a colorful wall of slightly, you know, like different sizes of cones of floss. I just think it'd be so pretty, but I'm at the like use up all the things mode for the past few years here, and you know, a lot of these I've just saved for a few years, and I'm like, it's time someone else can get a better use out of it. I'd rather know that they're getting used, or that other people are happy with them, and versus me just hoarding them and putting them on a shelf. I just can't have any more clutter. Even though it's pretty, I would like to do a whole wall of it, but yeah, the colors are all just kind of really fun. All right, I think I'm only gonna get this one last stitch out of here. I'm way out of floss. Eee! Oh, and I must have snagged it a little here because 2 are a bit shorter than the other one. I don't know where though. All right, I'm gonna weave this end in and hopefully have enough Oh, enough to go back and forth the 3 times easily. We'll see. This is about where I always kind of pull it out of my needle on accident. I might have already done that. Dang it, come here. There we go. 2. I think we got it. 3. Ooh, I think we got tied in a little knot here. What the heck? There we go. Sheesh. All right, see, I almost set that on the table again next to me, but I'm trying to get used to using a needle minder. All right, it's looking cute here. All right, let's just continue for a few more minutes. I want to see how far I can get with this green. It is sometimes helpful to I mean, this is just what was left over from me separating the other strands. Sometimes it's nice. It lays flatter if you separate these and put them back together too, but I'm lazy, so I'm just going to use it as is, which is fine too. Ooh, Catherine says, I got the dark gray. Will the floss work well for a tied quilt? So I have done embroidery floss for a tied quilt before. It's not as good as using 100% wool that will felt up into that solid ball. Like it has to be that non-washable, like 100% wool to really get that. But I have used embroidery floss, and I do a French knot, not a French knot, a square knot. And I just try and pull it tight, but they might loosen a little bit in the wash. Like they're not going to meld together like wool would, but it holds together fine. If one gets a little loose, then you just have to tie it again. But it is very cute and sweet looking, that's for sure. It does give it's like a more delicate tied quilt look. But yeah, it won't be as strong, I guess, as using the wool. All right, we're ready here again. I wove in the back. All these little curves. So this is really just with this parsley. We got all these kind of tight curves. The sage is more like just a couple big straight lines. So I'm probably doing the most tedious part of this piece right now. I mean, all these little baby lazy daisy stitches or single chain stitches, those are gonna take some time to... Ooh. I pulled on something funny there. Those will take some time, but I don't know. I don't think quite as long as what these little curves are going to be. Oops, I got caught on the thread there. Ooh, Jenna's asking, have I ever knitted with the floss? Gosh, surprisingly, I don't think I've knit with the floss. I have used it. I've crocheted lots of times with the floss, though. I've I've stitched like several doilies with the floss. I have not used the floss for just straight weaving, but I've used it as I've woven with it from a darning sense. So I've darned like some holes, and you weave with that, and that looks so cute and pretty. It just really looks nice with the embroidery floss, and that has held up for a zillion washes too. My weaving with the embroidery floss for darning. So I have done that. Crocheting is awesome and so fun because I love crocheting with these itty bitty threads. The one thing, if you're gonna crochet with embroidery floss, is that embroidery floss is, at least 6-strand embroidery floss like this is meant to be easy to pull apart. Like the strands come apart really easily, so when you're crocheting, you got to make sure that you're hooking all of those threads because they just want to come apart. So that's the only kind of little annoyance with crocheting, but you know, that happens with when you're crocheting yarn and stuff too. Making sure to grab all the strands. But I'm surprised at myself that I haven't knit with it before. Especially since it's cotton, so you could make like a really kind of delicate kind of, I mean, in my head I'm just knitting washcloths. But you could make like a really kind of delicate fabric by knitting this. It'd be really pretty for like something knit with a lot of like little holes in, like yarn over holes and stuff. I'm sure that's called something other than holes. Like lace, like a lacy thing, like a lace knit sort of look. I bet you that'd look really, really, really pretty with floss. And in some of these bright colors, ooh. Oh yes, I've made zillions of bracelets with with floss. That was like my jam in I don't know, I guess middle school or elementary school or something. But actually, most of my floss that is in bins, like wound onto bobbins, I bring those out every once in a while. Most of that is from that time period yet. Still have not used up all that floss. Oh yeah, I've definitely sped up the. Marie's saying you're pretty fast stitcher with those lazy daisies. You've had a lot of practice with them. Yep. Yeah, so don't worry through this process if you're like, oh my god, I can't keep up with how fast you're stitching. I am trying to go a little quick because, you know, I'm trying to get through it in the week and I'm only doing it this like 1 little hour period. So I am trying to go a little fast, even though if I would do the sewing method instead of the stabbing method, like I'm going to do tomorrow for the sage, I'd be going even faster. So tomorrow I'm going to try and do the sage, even though I don't have this stuff done yet. I just kind of want to start the next thing. I will do this sewing method. So like I said, I'm doing the stabbing method where I stab the needle, go all the way down, then stab the needle back up. That's the stabbing method. Tomorrow I will show you the sewing method, which I like because it's faster. I think there's less opportunity to get weird knots on the back, which is a huge benefit. I just think, and maybe it's just because I'm not as good at it, I lose the precision a little bit of the stabbing. Like I like going straight up and down, and with the sewing method, I feel like I'm maybe not as accurate. And as I'm doing the stabbing method, I, you know, left a little thread undone there, so I'm not being accurate with the stabbing method right now either, I guess. Oh, Gretchen says, sage reminds me of Thanksgiving every time. Yeah, that's true. I didn't think of that, but you're totally right. Ugh, we gotta get all this stuff planted soon. I suppose not that soon, since we just got a zillion inches of snow again today. Ugh. I was hoping to be done with that. Marion says, embroidery and other crafts are meant to be relaxing, not something that causes us stress. Yeah, exactly. And I determine what craft I want to work on based on how I'm feeling too. Like to me, embroidery requires a little creative thinking, right? Even if you have a pattern and you know what colors you're doing, and you know if I'm going exactly by the pattern, so I don't really, you'd think there's not a lot of thinking, but I feel like just deciding how big each stitch is, even though that kind of comes natural after you're doing it for a little, but it still feels like a mental decision. And just even weaving in the ends, like, do I go up one more stitch or whatever? There's a bunch of just little micro decisions. So if I'm in a total zone out mode, sometimes embroidery isn't the thing I go to first. Whereas for me, like, knitting, even though I haven't done any knitting or crochet in a long time, but to me, like, knitting and crochet, if I'm doing something simple, like just going rows back and forth, to me, I don't have to make any decisions along the way. Like, I don't have to decide how big the stitch is going to be. I don't have to decide on anything. I'm just literally doing the same thing back and forth. So to me, that's a lot less, there's no micro creative decisions. So to me, that's more of a zone out world. Whereas like a step up as far as creative decisions, I think in my own personal brain, quilting in the sense of like patchwork, like sewing two pieces of fabric together for like a quilt block, to me that has more of those micro decisions and even some bigger decisions than embroidery. So like if I'm ready to try something new or just like get cracking on something and I've had my power breakfast and my coffee and I'm good to go, then I'm up for some patchwork, and then like a level up from there, but also relaxing, I think is improv piecing. And if I'm full going at it, then machine quilting, like that's where like my brain's got to super be on and is in like full like creative and decision making mode. So there's levels, like there's levels to. And like drawing, I think for me is like where I gotta be totally on and in technical mode. I'm not a very good just lazy doodler. Like I more technical, I feel like. So I have to have like full brain power to do that. So that's up there for me too. So I think level 1 would be just knitting a scarf, just going back and forth. Or, well, let's not even say a scarf. It's the dish towels. I like knitting the dish towels back and forth, you know, no creative decisions. That is like, even thinking about it right now, I feel my brain starting to, like, relax a little bit. Just, like, literally thinking about knitting a washcloth. Ugh, yeah, man, I gotta think about, that's my, like, happy place, I suppose. Like, I'm seriously, like, I can feel my brain relax thinking about knitting a washcloth. I gotta think about knitting washcloths more often, I suppose. Oh, man. Alright, I'm gonna just get this leaf done. I know we're a little over here. Feels like 8:30 though, instead of 9:30. But this would annoy me to just have this much undone on this bottom leaf, so I'm going to finish up this parsley leaf here. We'll address the top leaves, everything above the sage. We'll do that some other time. So tomorrow I'm going to work on the sage a hair, and then I'll probably pop back over to the parsley. Or I don't know, maybe we'll just do a day on each. And then we'll come back and finish what we don't have done. Let's do that. That's a good way to do it, I think. Just then you guys can ask questions on some of these other things instead of us just spending all our time on this parsley. So yeah, let's do that. So tomorrow I'll work on the sage, and like I said, I'm gonna do the sewing method instead of the stabbing method, so you can see that difference. Wednesday we'll do this rosemary. I suspect we'll get that done quicker than the hour. So then maybe we'll go back and finish up some of these, and then Thursday, Friday, we'll do the thyme there. And we don't have any stick and stitch stabilizer to get rid of because we already have the pre-printed design, so that gives us a little bit more time to stitch this week, which is nice. All right, 2 little stitches, and then, oh wait, no, I got this little part down here too. Never mind. about 2 more stitches with that part, and then we're done for the evening. But ugh, it is looking so good already. Just like, ugh, I love all these like really florally, leafy designs. I'd love to do more of them, so if you're liking this sort of bouquet, like, I mean, I know these aren't flowers, but like leafy, florally, more naturey things like this, let me know and I'll do more of these. I'd like to do some cute little animal guys again too. Ooh, I got a little fuzzle stuck in there. Lots of little fuzzles. All right, I'm gonna weave in this end. You don't have to weave it in the back of the same color stitches. I'm just going in this light green because it's close. And we got a little thread on here. Yet, if I need a stitch here or there later. Oh, I'm fumbly with the scissors today, man. Okay, and there we go for tonight. I think that's a decent start. Ugh, it really looks cute with those 2 greens. I think all of the greens in this is going to be really nice. All right, so there we are. So far, just this little bit here. So not a ton done in the grand scheme of things, but like I said, I think this is the part that's probably going to take the longest because of all these little curves on the parsley. My mom's already working on her second one of these already, so that's fun. Yeah, so over the next couple days, we'll do the next herb for each day, and if we finish it up early, that particular herb for the day, we'll finish up the stuff that we didn't get done on like this parsley and stuff. So that is the plan for the rest of the week. Thanks again for your subscribes and your shares and your likes. It helps me a ton and I appreciate it so much. And then be sure to check out that studio sale that we have going on too when you're checking out the embroidery bundle. So thanks so much, and I will see you guys for some more embroidery tomorrow. Same time, same earlier time. All right, so have a great evening. Good night.